What's going on, everyone? And thanks for joining me for another great conversation. As always, I appreciate you guys. My next guest, I had the pleasure of meeting out in Austin, Texas, and being able to talk about some incredibly exciting things. He does many things, but is known best for being an investigative reporter in the Bitcoin industry, but also being able to know the medium well enough to spot the trends that are coming up. This information is incredible, guys. I introduce to you the smart and powerful González. All right, man. What's going on, brother? This ain't for the show, but thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving me your time, man. This is super dope. I'm excited to talk about all the stuff you got going on and try to, shine some light on that stuff, man. Because like you were saying in the conversation, I think it was on Telegram the other time, where it's like, look, we need to just like pick each other up, especially when we're like these low, underground podcasts or whatever, because these big dogs are getting, all the money, all the opportunities, and we're kind of just getting forgotten. So that really stuck out to me, and I was like, I got to get Carr on to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things, like that we just don't do that in the space. And I don't know. Do you want to start right now, or do you want to?
Yeah, man. It's already going. So let's go.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I do intros after, brother. So go ahead, go with your point.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems in this space is just in podcasts in general. Everybody looks at each other like competition, and that's just not where I come from. Like, primarily, like I come from like a punk background. Like I grew up in that DIY kind of like band culture. Like in my 20s and in my late teens, I was in a band, a Texas band here in like South Texas, and so we traveled like DIY all over the state of Texas, and we were pretty good. we weren't that bad, and so like we had this just like punk attitude of just go out there, play a show. We'll have a street team. We'll figure it out on the way there. We'll go to the next gig, same thing. And then we would meet new bands in that area, and then we would travel with them, and then they would set up tours, and then we would just kind of do that. And believe it or not, that actually worked. Like it actually worked, right? And so I just have that kind of mentality of like, you don't need to wait around for, so-and-so to tell you like you're legitimate or you're doing what you want. You just need to become what you are and just believe it, right? And I think there's so many people who don't want to start something because they're afraid that, somebody's going to call them out for being a fake or for telling them that they suck, or that they're a fraud or they're shill or whatever insecurities that they may have. And that's just not the reality that we live in. Everybody's too concerned with their own selves, right? Like we're all concerned and consumed with our own beings to even give a fuck what everybody else is going on, right?
Right.
So it's like, don't even worry about whatever other people are saying because they don't even care what you're doing in your daily life. They're too consumed with themselves. So I just have that mentality from the get was like, just go out and do what you want. Like get the people around you who give a shit and help promote them. And in turn, hopefully they'll do the right thing and help promote you. If they don't, who cares? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you think their shit is legit, if you think their shit is cool, then help promote them. I mean, it's that simple. It doesn't cost you anything to retweet. It doesn't cost you anything to like something. And I think we live in this fucking culture, especially in the Bitcoin industry, where everybody's so fucking like uptight about fucking liking or retweeting something because they don't want it to like, disrupt their fucking timeline. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, it's just a fucking timeline. And guess what? You don't fucking own it. Fucking Jack Dorsey owns that shit. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? LLC, whatever the fuck, right? And I just don't understand what the fuck everybody's so uptight about. It's just a fucking like. It's just a fucking retweet. You know what I mean? And so I just see too much in this space where I'm just like, dude, if the guy's making great shit and it's consistently great shit like you are, Jose, fucking retweet it. Let's fucking go. Like, it's fucking awesome. Like, dude, I was listening to your Mr. Boom podcast.
Yeah.
Fucking, it was so inspiring as fuck, dude. Like, I want to meet that guy, Mr. Boom now. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to come to Texas or if he's ever going to come to Austin. But if he ever does, like, I want to have a conversation with that guy, because there is some shit that he was talking about on that podcast that I'm straight up going to rip. I'm straight up going to steal, because he was talking about this end-to-end product when he ships, and how he's creating this boom dynamite, and how he's going to input some of this clothing inside of this like dynamite. But the thing that I grabbed from it wasn't the fact that he's creating clothing or anything like that. Me as a creator was like, how can I create that end-to-end experience as a podcast, right? Like from beginning to end, like how do you control that end-to-end experience? And you see it in different product lines, you know, across all sorts of retail. You know, Apple does it, Google does it, Tesla does it. But how do you do that in a podcast, create that end-to-end experience? And so when I saw him talk about it, I was like, dude, that's legit as fuck. Like he's doing that on a smaller scale, you know, himself. He's just saying like, I'm just going to do it because I'm envisioning it. And so when he was talking about that, I was like, damn, that's fucking good. Like that's really fucking good, dude. Like he's thinking outside the box. He's not thinking like everybody else. And so that was one thing that...
Shout out to Mr. Boom, by the way. But
yeah, that was one thing that I was thinking about. I was like, I'm totally going to rip that. Like, I'm totally going to steal that idea of that end-to-end, you know, design, product, and kind of 360 approach to creating shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I think that's extremely difficult in podcasting, and I agree with you. You know, because so many people have either bad stigma about podcasts, or they just quote unquote don't have the time about podcasts. Plus, you're really, I mean, you can do the videos, and I've tried to do that, but you're really an audio only experience. And I think, you know, just like we're early in Bitcoin, I think we're extremely early on podcast. And there's a very few that are actually making a ton of money doing it. So I agree with you that if you don't necessarily, if the podcast is just part of the package, then it's a better experience to the person at the end that gets it. So how since that episode have you incorporated that, you know, that idea, that concept of packaging from end to end?
I figured it out.
Did you? Do you want to share it, or are you kind of behind closed doors?
Yeah, I'll share it. I mean, ideas are free, execution's everything, right? I forget who said that.
I love that.
Who did say that?
I don't know, but I'm gonna say Carr said that. We're gonna put that timestamp here.
Ideas are free, execution's everything. Somebody smarter than me said that. I stole it from somebody.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to creating consistently great content consistently, right?
Yeah.
But what you have to do is really like envelop and engulf the listener into what they're listening, right? And so I've been on this whole kick probably since June about really paying attention to like every single second and millisecond of my podcast. And so my listeners probably are frustrated because they're like, man, Carr doesn't release on the same type of schedule like he used to. You know, he used to release consistently like every 2 days, every 3 days. And I'm sorry, guys, ladies, I'm sorry, you know, I'm just not going to churn out every 3 days podcast. I'm going to do it every 7 days now, you know, and then every once in a while I'll churn out every 3 days if there's something important that we have to talk about. But I'm doing it every 7 days because I realize like it's just going to take more time now to like make great content. And so like when you're creating audio right now, there's this whole thing with audio where you can just like people second guess it. People try to, you know, and no offense to anybody that does this. And, you know, I used to be that person. I used to do that. So no offense. It's just kind of where you are, you know, in your kind of career when you're creating podcasts. But what you'll do typically is you'll get it recorded. You'll do the take, 1 or 2 takes. You'll get it spliced up, you know, export it, upload it, and you'll call it a day. I don't do that anymore. I really try to make it into like a music track now, like where it's just kind of fluid. And some of the people that have been listening lately have been hitting me up on Telegram, and I've never listened to some of these older shows that that they reference, because a lot of them are referencing some stuff that I just don't know of. Like I don't know about some show that used to be on in the 90s or in the early 2000s. I don't know what that is, but they keep referencing some show. They're like, man, you're going into the territory of whatever. The only things that I can reference are the stuff that I'm taking from. So like I'm taking from like Frontline, right? I'm taking from like 60 Minutes. I'm taking from like people like Anthony Bourdain. You know, I'm taking from like, you know, movies like from Stanley Kubrick. You know, I'm taking from like musicians like, you know, like Omar Rodriguez Lopez of the Mars Volta. Like I'm taking from people like that, right? I'm taking from like all these different artists that I respect. And I'm trying to say like, how do they create their art so spastic, so original, so finely tuned, so carefully crafted? And how do they make their medium on another level? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to push the medium to another level, but I'm doing it the only way I know how. And I'm looking at those people who inspire me, and I'm trying to say, how can I do that on a podcast? And that's what I've been kind of doing. That's what I've been kind of doing lately, is trying to incorporate those things. So what I'll do is I'll grab ideas from everywhere. Like I watch a lot of movies, and I pay attention to the sound in movies. So like there's certain scenes you'll watch in a movie, and it'll be a scene where you're watching something. Oh, have you seen the new movie Quiet Place Part 2? It's a perfect example.
No.
Well, there's so many scenes, and I won't give anything away, but there's so many scenes in that movie where that guy, John Krasinski, is an amazing director, but he utilizes sound so well, and he talks about it. And he talks about how he stole sound from, somebody like the director who created Blade Runner, and how he stole the sounds from like Aliens, and he stole the sounds from like a lot of different movies that he grew up watching. And he talks about how like he utilizes those sounds from like Jurassic Park when the glass of water shakes, and all you see is the water, but the glass of water shakes. And he talks about how he utilizes the sound in The Quiet Place to just to create that impact. And so that's what I'm trying to do in a podcast, is where you can create impact, you can create emotion with something as simple as just like a heartbeat. And if most of my listeners are putting on headphones, or if they're driving, if they're not passive listening, because I don't want passive listeners, if they're actually putting on headphones, if they're actually driving and they have it cranked up, they're going to get a really, emotional response to the podcast, right? Like they're going to get something out of it. And if you listen to it like that, with intent, you're going to get like an experience. Like I want you to get like a whoa, that was an emotion that I felt there. And that's where I'm kind of pushing that medium. And so the end-to-end product that I was talking about is the meat of that is that emotion. And the end-to-end part is what I'm doing now with writing publications like on Medium. And that goes with the podcast. So before, I would create all this content and I would write it out, Jose, but I would write it out like on a notepad, or I would write it out in the newsletter. And then I would just like read off of it, record it, and then pump it out as a podcast. And then I would just leave it as that. But now what I'm doing is I'm actually writing everything out like a journalist. And I stole this from Anthony Bourdain because I didn't realize that he was actually a writer before he got into TV and television. I had no idea. I was just a fan of it. I was just a fan of his work because I just love the guy. I thought he was just a brilliant, just narrator. I don't know if you ever watch a show, but his narrations, his narrations to places that he goes is just like some of the most brilliant narrations you could ever watch on TV. It's just so brilliant. And some of the cinematography and even the sounds, like if you could literally turn Anthony Bourdain's like shows into podcasts, and they would make some of the brilliant, they would make some really brilliant shows. Anyway,
yeah,
so
no,
like,
I think you're dead on with that, by the way, and it's intriguing. This is what excites me about the podcast space because everything you're explaining to me is I was thinking about the blogging aspect of it, which you just brought up, but the whole like meat and potatoes thing and making the episode, you know, basically be a sequence and be like a music track. I think you're dead on, and the example that comes to mind is I don't know if you listen to Revisionist History, Malcolm Gladwell's podcast.
no.
Well, if you check out Revisionist History or any of his latest audiobooks, Malcolm Gladwell, he has the same thing. He has music creeping. He has really good narration. He leads into one scene into the next other. Even his advertisement inserts are just incredible. And it sounds like you are going through this. He has actually been quoted saying something similar to what you just said, which is it takes you through this like, you know, musical experience of emotions and of connectivity to words and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, you're dead on. I think what you're working on right now is the way, as we like to say in Bitcoin.
That's interesting.
I've never thought about ever doing it that way, and I'm actually inspired by and you know by creatives like yourself that do that because to me, since the very beginning. I've always wanted human nuance conversation, right? Like to me, it's like I send you that little form. I get a little bit of a gist of what you got going on, other stuff. You know, in this situation, I actually got to meet you personally, so the form was kind of irrelevant. Yeah. But I really like to capture human beings on the spot of being human beings, right? Like, you know, I've had some guests come on the show and they've been, you know, high or drinking a little bit and feeling great. And I like to capture the conversation as it's happening on the spot. How you're feeling right now, how I'm feeling right now on the spot in this moment. And I think when I tried to have script that in the past, it always sounds like shit. It always sounds very robotic. It doesn't make any sense. But to circle back, that's what I love about podcasting is that everybody could bring their own unique experience to it and it can actually work.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things I like about your show that, you know, some of these other shows can't do. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a little insight into what I like about what you do. So I pay attention, dude. So like one of the things is ask my wife, well, you already know Christina, like she's like, man, you know, Car, you just love to criticize. And it's not that I like to criticize. It's just like, I like to, you know, think things out. And I like to, I pay attention to details. And I probably get that from my mother. She was very much like that growing up. I think all, you know, Spanish moms are probably like that, you know, to some extent, you know, pick that up, you know, wash your hands, tuck in your shirt, stuff like that. But with your podcast, and I think I told you this when we met in person, was like, dude, you're like secret power. I told you this, Jose. You have a way of interview. How do you want to say fucking interviewing? Because it's not fucking interviewing people. You have a way of talking to people that brings a sense of ease that, you know, and I can only talk about myself, but when I was trying to, you know, do a whole like, you know, interview show, it failed miserably. And I stopped doing it because I was like, I suck at interviews. I can't do it. But you have a way of doing it effortlessly. I think your wife had said that too. She agreed when we were talking about it, when I talked to you live. It was like, dude, like she agreed. She's like, yeah. And it's something that you just have innately as your superpower, bro. Like where you just, you just have that. And I even told my wife, I was like, remember when I was watching Oprah Winfrey so I could get better at interviewing? And she was like, yeah, you're listening to Oprah Winfrey podcast to understand like how she was able to like, you know, transition. And like, it was so stupid of me, like trying to figure out like, how can I learn how to interview better? It was so dumb. Like I was trying to figure out like, how can I interview better? But it was so stupid. You know, I should have just went to my bread and butter. Right. And that was like music. And that was like what made me special was, you know, what I grew up on was like punk and playing in bands and understanding like music, understanding that kind of stuff, storytelling, making great songs. And that's what I'm doing now is the same thing as storytelling, is making great songs, is paying attention to the finely tuned stuff. And that's what I'm bringing. And that's the same thing that I'm doing now. And it's just focusing on what really makes you, and being comfortable with it and doubling down on it, you know? And I think for you, when I listen to your podcast, I'm like, Dad, I can just listen to this guy for hours. Like, you know, because it's so effortlessly, like it's so effortless. Like same thing with like Joe Rogan. Like I can listen to Joe Rogan because the guy makes anything sound appealing, right?
Yeah.
And I hate UFC. Like I'll watch some of the big fights, but for the most part, like I can't really stand UFC for the most part. Like I'll watch it if it's on in a bar or something, or you know, so and so is fighting and it's supposed to be a really good fight. Sure, let's go watch it. But for the most part, I really don't care. But if Joe Rogan's talking about it, he makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Same thing with you. Like I forget what podcast I was listening to where you were talking about something, and it was interesting. I was like, I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't normally watch something like that. Like normally, you know, I wouldn't go seek it out. But your personality and what makes your podcast special is that you make something boring or something that is uniquely like mundane sound interesting. Like it's effortless for you. That's a superpower, bro. Like that's something that, you like normal people just don't have.
I appreciate that, man. I will say I that goes back to not scripting everything. I think if I were to script anything, like even questions early on, I try to script questions, and I was just terrible at that part of conversation where it was like, hey, let me look at the questions. Let me look at the person. Hey, let me look at the question. It was just terrible, and I felt bad. And then over time, I kind of just felt that. It's like, look, in my everyday life, I have great conversations. I just kind of have to let that happen in front of a microphone and not get in the way and not try to like send Carr a bunch of questions that's then going to make him sound too template, right? And unless Carr specifically reaches out and says, hey, I don't want to talk about this. And that's what the forum is for. But once I know a few things, it's no holds barred. Person is ready to get on video. Person is ready to chat. And they got something going on and something exciting to share. I think I could pretty much talk to anybody. I think I could pretty much, because I'm a curious guy. I'm super interested in so many different things. So it's not hard for me. But I'll be honest with you, man. I'm a sharp critic on myself. A lot of people tell me similar things to you, but I don't. It's not that I don't believe you guys. It's that hard criticism. It's that, hey, I could get better. Hey, I don't think my interviewing is up to par. I don't think it's stupid that you were studying Oprah because I listen. Yeah, I really don't think it's stupid. Because there's always that like we can get better, right? And that feeling that we put on ourselves. But something I've learned over time, I study Stoic philosophy. That's, my favorite, era in time. But just the Stoics themselves were brilliant people, in my opinion. So something I learned is that we suffer more in imagination than we often do in reality. And when we get into these conversations, sometimes we overthink them. Sometimes we get like, really antsy and we get really anxious. What am I going to say? Or I'm talking like, I spoke to Dirt Gigi on my other podcast and I'm thinking like, how can I speak to a Dirt Gigi? He's a Bitcoin maxi, et cetera, all this thing. And I think, I know all of that was just imagination. All of that was just suffering in my own head. And it leads to shitty conversation. But when I could remove that and just understand that me being myself is the best thing that I can offer, that makes the guests feel better. That makes everybody feel better. And the conversation is sort of like if we were having it and these cameras and these microphones weren't on. And that's what I have to lean on. That's all I got. That's why I respect guys like you that have the talent to be able to create, to, put stuff I have a buddy who he's on my network, Spotlight Coalition Network, and he does a podcast where he does music. And I always tell him the same thing. It sounds like live radio when I was growing up. Like he has these like blends. It's called Chilling with the Puff Man. And he's the Puff Man. That's his, he's a multi-purpose speaking podcast, right? So early on, he was doing a lot of political stuff because he's very passionate on his political takes. But I met him back in the day, Xbox One, Gears of War. So he talks about video games. But he has this pure, early 80s, early 90s music background, right? So he'll be dropping these like, all about the Benjamins and all these like crazy songs that bring me back. But they all, segment into his next segment, which he calls the next puff, right? So he's like, hey, we're about to get into the next puff. He'll blend in a little music. He'll drop a little vibe, a little flow. And I'm telling you, Carr, I can't do that, but I love it as a listener.
You got to send me that link. You got to send me a link to his stuff. I've been on this whole kick lately where I've been listening to like this old, like, and I don't know how I got into this kick, but I've been on this whole kick lately where I've been listening to like this old like AM, like radio from like the 80s and like early 90s. And I've been listening I've been even watching like VHF, like TV from like the 60s and 70s, like on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things where it's not like what I'm trying to like go for. It's almost like a fascination, trying to understand like how they did it back then and like why those transitions happen like that for broadcast, and not really trying to get ideas, but just trying to understand like what those transitions were about and why they had them and what purpose they served. Right. And then not really. And I put a couple of them inside my podcast just because I'm trying to like, just kind of play with that, you know, I'm just trying to not even going to say reinvent it, but just trying to like see if I can play with that kind of style inside of a podcast. So yeah, send me that link. I would be interested to see what he's doing. Maybe I can learn a thing or two on how he's incorporating it, because I'm always looking for new ideas. Like, you know, I'm always looking to hear new stuff, and I'm grabbing from everywhere these days.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'm on this whole new kick, bro. Like 2021 has been one of those years where like I really put down YouTube and have picked up more books. Like I've really killed like 20 books this year. And for me, that's a lot. Like I know more people kill more books than that. But for me, 20 books is a lot, you know, by July. And I've just been reading, dude. And it was, I forget who told me, or I don't know where I saw this, or I think it was somebody who told me, they're like, Car, they're like, if you want to update your OS, you gotta read more books. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, your operating system is your brain. And in order to download more apps, you have to read books. That's the only way you're going to download more apps for your brain. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about, man? I think it was at the Austin Bitcoin meetup that we do monthly here. I think that's where somebody told me. And they were basically saying that, you know, you can literally learn, because, you know, it's usually like, you know, either a man or a woman will write like one great book, you know, like one great book in their lifetime. And it usually amasses like all their knowledge that they've had, you know, in their entire life. And I know you written a book. Yeah. Right. But by the way, I need you to send me the link to that so I can read it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
So because I'm on a kick, I want to read a lot of books. And anyway, so he was saying like, you know, a man or a woman will write one book and it'll have all their knowledge that they've amassed, you know, over the culmination of their life. And so you literally can take somebody's knowledge of their life and like take it. Like you can hold that knowledge and insert it in your brain, kind of like Neo in the Matrix. Like now I know Kung Fu, like that. And so that's powerful, bro, when you think of it like that. So the fact that for the longest time, I wasn't reading any books. Like I was going like, you know, years without reading any books in my 20s. And so now I've just been on this whole kick where I'm like, I need to make up for lost time. I need to read as many books as I can. And I've just been burning through them, bro. Yeah, and man. Now I'm like, I have a freaking Barnes and Noble subscription.
Good move, man.
I just been buying books. My wife's like, another one? I'm like, yeah, another one. And it's because of Bitcoin. And this all started because of Bitcoin, you know, and it really, that's why I'm saying like Bitcoin changes you fundamentally to your core. It makes you face a lot of things that you necessarily wouldn't face. You know what I mean? It also brought me closer to my faith in a lot of ways. I know a lot of people say that too, but it's one of those things where it really fundamentally changes you from the inside out. And Bitcoin's a powerful thing, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That not only Bitcoin, but the reading in general. But yes, my life has completely transformed since I've gotten deep into the rabbit hole and all that stuff because it just the world as you back to the Matrix analogies, that whole world as you think it is, it's not the right way, and it's actually an evil world that you need a simulation that you need to step away from. But on the reading the books thing, man, yeah, man, and in my opinion, the further in history the book is, the much better it is for you. I got a chapter in my book, shameless plug, but it's studying the lives of the greats, and it's for that reason. To think that these people like the Stoics and these people throughout history, these males and these females, these heroes, these villains, can record their life and every mistake and every pro and every con into a book that you could read thousands of years later and they have no selling point to you. Their estate isn't making any money out of this. They have no reason for these words to exist. They're not there for you. They're just there because they lived in this world and were able to leave some type of legacy recorded, which is what I think books are. So I'm very big on that, man. Yeah, especially like Stoic philosophy. I keep circling back because these guys observed life, right? And these guys were able to, like if you think about Marcus Aurelius, which is the emperor of Rome, the only philosopher king, and he was still sitting down at the end of his night and journaling, basically criticism to himself, like, hey man, you're not doing enough. You're seeing this wrong. You need to be stronger. Your inner citadel needs to be, better. You need to deal with jealous people, angry people throughout your world. And this is a dude that could have sat on his ass and literally had grapes fed into his mouth. But instead he was for the people, and he was such about philosophy and such about life, which philosophy by definition is the study of life, that he was able to humble himself as a king and actually be the only Roman, king of the people. And at that time, with all the tyranny that was going on, that was extremely rare. And that's what sticks out to me. Marcus Aurelius' meditations are not around for Jose to be able to have a better morning or be able to have a better day. But damn it, those words just seem to sting the same exact way, because at the end of the day, whether you're a king, whether you're a pleb, life throws the same types of baseballs at you, and it just depends how you can handle those baseballs. You can take them out the park, or you can let them strike you out, and it doesn't matter who you are. And when you read about stuff like that, man, it opens up a whole bunch of Pandora's boxes for you, man. I agree. Reading is key.
I'm reading a book right now where, the author's talking about how he created a painting about his hero, or I wouldn't even say his heroes, people that he looks up to in history. And he's basically saying that he has this painting and it sits in his home office. And I think this is such a brilliant idea. I'm totally going to steal this idea when I can afford a painter to do it for me, by the way. But it's a great idea. But he says that he has his heroes that he has throughout history, and that he has these heroes in a painting, and he puts them in there. And I think he has Einstein in there. He has Martin Luther King. He has Milton Friedman, I believe. He has Tupac Shakur, surprisingly.
Nice.
And then he has I think Gandhi's in there. John F. Kennedy's in there. Abraham Lincoln's in there. So he has like a couple, some different people, in this painting. And he talks about that whenever he's in a situation that he can't figure out, or that he's in a business situation or a business decision that he's unable to, wrap his head around, or that he can't figure out for whatever reason, that he just stares at his heroes, his painting, and he's like, what would these greats do? And it's literally a picture, or it's a painting of them sitting in a room. And in the book, it's them sitting in a room, all gathered around in this kind of like meeting room, and they're just like talking amongst each other. So it's kind of funny how I think it's just a brilliant idea. Like if you pick your own heroes, your own type of people that you look up to, and you kind of visualize them in a room with you, and you think like, how would they go about, creating this piece of content or this or this business decision that you're trying to grapple with, or this key decision in your life? Like, what would they have done, or what would they have said? I know sounds kind of dumb, but it's a way to get your head wrapped around like how successful these guys were or unsuccessful they were. But when I started writing down a list, because that book encourages you to like write down a list of your heroes. I was like, man, this is a really fucked up list of people that I had on that list, because they're just totally fucking out there weirdos, you know? Yeah. I was just like, damn.
Nah, it's not dumb at all. You can't see it here, but I have a small little portrait of Marcus Aurelius here, or what Marcus Aurelius was supposed to look like, of course. And then holding up the camera right now above my computer is Meditations from Marcus Aurelius, and I got a bunch of highlights and annotations in there. And in my backpack, everywhere I go, I also have another copy of Meditations from Marcus Aurelius.
I'm gonna have to read that book.
It's more like his, I hate to say it's his journal entries, right? So it's not like a streamlined book back and forth. But if you know about Marcus Aurelius, these little, if you want to call them verses, right? It's not a Bible, but if you want to call them verses, they really stick out, man. He like, I read one this morning where he was basically saying, I need to be like an emerald, right? I need to always know who I am, and I never can change my color. Like, that's something that I need to do. And just small little, sometimes they're paragraphs, sometimes they're just one bars. But to think, once again, that the guy that could have been tyrannical and could have been pillaging from the people and doing all crazy shit like all the other Roman emperors were, this guy was focused on improving himself, being better, being about the people. He talks a lot about, what's good for the bee is good for the hive. That's one of his things that he's really big on, and he's all about that. Like, why be the intoxicating bee to a whole hive when we can work together and make the hive successful, right? And get the honey and what we need. He's really big on things like that, and he wasn't just an average day dude. He had to lead an entire nation, if you think about it, and it's super humbling. But there's other guys. There's Seneca. There's a bunch of all the Stoics, in my opinion, if you go all the way up and down the list. Confucius, Rutilius, Rufus, so many guys. But these guys were basically like virtuous men. We fight. We're always there. We always live life the right way. This was pre-Christianity, but sort of that sense, right? Whereas like we're about people, and it's incredible to read these things thousands of years later. But that's a long-winded answer to basically say that I don't think it's stupid at all. That's why some people have a bust of certain individuals in their libraries, right? Because they want to be reminded of these people. They want to be virtuous like these people. And I can't be virtuous from, like a Grant Cardone. I can't be virtuous. Like there's a lot of great people out there. Let's say Tony Robbins. Like, listen, Tony Robbins has been doing good things for a long time. That's fantastic. But to me personally, I still think Tony Robbins still has to pay some bills, and Tony Robbins is going to get my money as fast as possible. Some people say that that's a value trade, and I do respect that. Like, if I need that in my life and I want to pay for that, fantastic. But once again, if I could just buy a copy of Meditations and know that Marcus Aurelius has no bearing whatsoever if I succeed or fail, and I learn life advice, this is thing, I don't know if you ever heard this, where they say you can't choose who your parents are, but you can choose who you learn from. And I think that's super powerful, because although my parents are still together and I'm thankful for that, and I've learned a ton from my parents and I see them every day and I'm thankful for that. There's a lot of people that don't have that, privilege to have their parents together, or to have their dad or mother around, or both around. And I think it's super important for people to think that you can still get life information from people in the past, even though they're not necessarily related to you. The Stoics are one of those examples. But
yeah, I never thought of it like that. I guess, when you kind of really come down to it, I guess a lot of these people like Gary Vee and like Tai Lopez and like you said, Grant Cardone, I guess they're all kind of stealing from the greats, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, listen, everybody who's at least, especially capitalists, would just say, Jose's just complaining about wah. They put together value. But listen, I have paid my hard-earned money for Russell Brunson courses, for marketing and things like that. I have paid, thousands of dollars for courses that literally give you nothing in return. And that doesn't mean that applies to everybody across the board. But what it means to me is that if this person could benefit from my misery, right? And if they can tell good stories, because I understand marketing, if they could still tell good stories and do the hero's journey, right? And from bottom to top, and Jose could make it too. That's why six-pack abs will always work. That's why, six-figure side hustle will always work. Because if you can capitalize from my pain point, you're going to do it every single time. And what you're going to tell me is, boo-hoo, you should have figured it out before me. And what I'm going to tell you is, I don't give a fuck about fiat. I don't give a fuck about money. I give a fuck about the person. So if I could give this information for free, why am I charging motherfuckers $3,000? That's my take. But whatever.
So one of the things that, you know, that I had the biggest problem with was, you know, for the longest time, I had this stance that I didn't want to put ads in my podcast, right? And I didn't put any ads in my podcast. I never put any ads in my podcast. I actually hate ads in podcasts. I think they ruin the experience. But that's just how I personally feel.
Sure.
At least for mine. Everybody's their own thing. And I respect that. Everybody has to make a living. But for me, I never wanted to put ads in my podcast. And then I decided, okay, well, let me go a subscription paywall. Right. And so we did that for 3 years and it worked. Right. But it worked in a way where I didn't like the feeling that I got from it, because it still felt like shilling, and it still felt like it was unfair because I wasn't sharing it with everybody. And it felt like it was like a club, like it was like its own type of, you know, closed loop kind of thing. Everybody in the club loved it because it was its own private club, but it didn't feel like it was serving a purpose for the greater community. Yes, we would still release free episodes, but the good shit was behind a paywall. And then this year, you know, I realized, like, you know what? You just need to release it all for free. Like, you just need to release it all. The good shit, you know, release it all for free. Switch to a donation only model. That's the way. Like, you can't create this private club. No matter how good you think your shit is, it's probably not as good as you think it is. Just release it for free. If people share it, cool. If they get some kind of benefit from it, cool. You know, you're making somebody's day that much more better. You're contributing to society in one way or another. Yes, you're not putting ads in it. Yes, you're not shilling anything. Yes, you're doing it the correct way. Yes, there's no paywall. Yes, you're probably leaving a shit ton of money on the table because you're not accepting money from BlockFi. You're not accepting money from Kraken. Yes, you're turning down money from Coinbase. Yes, you're turning down money from all these other, you know, exchanges that want to, you know, sponsor on your podcast. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do, right? And so that's what we did. You know, it took me a long time to kind of realize that, but that's what I did. So that's why I switched to donation only model. Surprisingly, only one person unsubscribed. One person unsubscribed and said, I'm not on this, you know, and I have nothing but respect for that person. I think it's awesome. They want to save an extra $70, $75 fiat and buy Bitcoin. That's cool. I think that's the smartest thing you could do. But to all the other people that stayed on, man, you're fucking amazing people. Like, the fact that you believe in what we're creating here at Thriller, like, fucking, you're amazing people. Like for so long, Jose, I was fucking under the water, bro. Like, people don't realize how much it costs to make a podcast. Mm-hmm. You know, people don't realize the man hours that it takes to make a podcast. Like, dude, there was years, bro, where I was just under fucking water, just in debt of just creating this podcast. There were years of shit my wife would give me just for fucking creating this podcast. Dude, like, to go to conferences, to travel, to record, to put up with all the bullshit that you have to put up with all these PR people. Like, dude, like, it fucking sucks, bro. And then not only that, you fucking get scammed by these people. And then you have to go through the ringer with all these fucking people like Consensus and fucking Ethereum heads and fucking all types of shit you put up with, like people from Cardano and all these fucking shill projects and these fucking DeFi fucks. Like, all these people, bro, like, it fucking sucks, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's moments where, you know, they offer you a fuck ton of money through tokens or something, and you're fucking tempted because you have fucking people that you're friends with, like fucking Crypto Indy or Ken Bozak, who are fucking making tons of fucking money, who you used to be really good friends with, but now they won't fucking answer your DM or take your fucking call because now you're a fucking Bitcoin maxi and they fucking hate your guts, right? But now they're on the cover of fucking the Washington Post because they've been shilling effectively. Like, yeah, dude, it fucking sucks. Like it fucking sucks to know that you're good friends with these people, but now they don't want anything to do with you anymore. Right. Because now they think you turn to the dark side. Right. But in all of that, I kept my fucking morals intact. I never took any fucking money. I never took any fucking tokens. Never took any fucking ICO money. I never shilled anything. You know, they would try to offer me, hey, you mind shilling this if you do a meetup? Or no, I don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Hey, if you have this guy on your podcast, we can offer you this amount. No, I don't want that. You know, not knowing all this stuff that they were just profiting off of coming on the podcast, not knowing what I was doing, dude, because I just didn't understand the space, right? I didn't understand how all of that worked behind the scenes. I was just fucking naive, bro. Luckily, you know, I had met Gary Leland. He started the BitBlock Boom conference, and luckily that guy, dude, he kind of took me under his wing. You know, he was a Bitcoin maxi from the beginning. You know, he was like, hey, why don't you come to the Bitcoin BitBlock Boom? You know, check out. You live in Austin, come over. Here's a free ticket. Just cover it, right? I was like, cool, Gary, I'll go cover it. Dude, fucking unlocked my brain, right? In 2019, unlocked my brain. I was like, wow, now I understand a little bit, right? Didn't fully grasp it, but understood a little bit. And more, dude, I started opening my eyes up to what fucking Ethereum was doing, you know? And then once Ethereum got over a certain amount of money, dude, fucking these fuckers that I used to talk to in the Ethereum space fucking changed, man. Like they are on another fucking level, a type of behavior, dude, that is just unfucking real. And so, you know, one of the things that I realized was that this is not just a like, you know, get rich quick scheme for Ethereum, dude. This is like them trying to fully attack Bitcoin now. And so one of the things that I want to do is make sure that I'm on the right side of history, you know, and I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure that, you know, fucking humanity has a good chance of fucking surviving, you know, not only for like my nieces and my nephews, but like, you know, that all the information is out there, that everybody's fully equipped to like, you know, take on whatever we have to take on. And so that's why I've been on this whole kick. Like, you know, dude, we have to hold the line. We have to defend Bitcoin at any cost. And like, you know, I don't think it's ridiculous for people to take this stuff seriously. I just don't. And you know, I really am appreciative to people like Gary Leland, because I think if he would have never took me under his wing and gotten me orange pilled effectively, dude, who knows, you know, where I would have been, you know, as a Bitcoiner. I probably would have still been covering Ethereum stuff, you know, but thank God, you know, it took me a long time to like move from like the covering everything to just covering Bitcoin to now just primarily focused just in Bitcoin. And it really took me a long time to understand why that information needs to be free. And that's kind of how I feel about that. So whenever I see these other podcasts, you know, start shilling, you know, whatever the fuck they're shilling, or, you know, promoting whatever the fuck they're promoting, I just am kind of like, you know, disgusted is like, you know, an understatement. But I had this guy that I went to this fuck Elon Musk thing for, you know.
Yeah, man. How was that, man? I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But there was this guy I was sitting next to, and he was an older gentleman. And you know, he was talking about, yeah, I have Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. And he was asking me, he was like, what are you here for? And I was like, oh, I'm just here just to, you know, just to show support, you know, cover the event. You know, I was just going to take some pictures, you know, post about it on social media, just kind of do that kind of stuff. I wasn't going to make a podcast or anything about it, but just kind of be there for support. You know, I try to go to every Bitcoin thing in the area. But he was seen there, and then he started talking to me. He was like, so what do you do? You know, I was like, oh, I have a podcast. You should check it out. And he was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, I listen to so-and-so podcast. I don't want to say which one it is, because fuck that guy. He doesn't get any fucking attention on this fucking podcast.
I love it. I probably guess who it is. But go.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that motherfucker. He's like, hey, would you want to come on? No, fuck you, bro. I don't want to come on your fucking show.
Yeah.
Fuck you, you piece of shit.
I love it though. That's sticking to your guns. That's sticking to your virtues though.
No,
like you
dude,
said,
I would never come on his show because it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, fuck you. No, dude. Like, how about this? I'll come on your show if you don't have any ads for the entire show. And
they won't do it. Yeah.
They won't do it. So there you go.
No, and most of these guys can't do it even if they wanted to.
Exactly.
Contractually, they're already set up to do it. I noticed something. I love. If it's the same guy we're talking about, then you probably know who I'm talking about. But anyways, in the last episode or the last few, they had Parker Lewis on. And, Parker Lewis was going on his, gradually then suddenly stuff, which was fantastic, by the way. But I noticed that the ad that came on right before Parker Lewis got some mic attention was a bunch of shitcornery stuff and Kassab, which is literally, Unchained Capital's, I would say, direct competitor when it comes to the multi-sig space or whatever. So it was kind of like you said, even if the gentleman who runs this podcast wanted to remove that ad because it conflicted with the guest, he wasn't able to. And they ran it, and the ad ran, and then immediately after that, Parker comes on, and I'm just like, yeah, you got to give your guest the respect to say, hey, if you're coming here and blessing me with the wisdom, I'm not going to run an ad for one of your competitors. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And so this guy goes, he goes, yeah, I've been listening to so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. I'm really into, I have all my Bitcoin on BlockFi. That's what he says.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Okay. And it's that moment is not the time for me to educate the guy.
Yeah.
Why BlockFi is not good for him, right? He's an older gentleman. He's just said that he retired. He's going to live off his BlockFi interest. This is what he's telling me.
Yeah.
He's living off his BlockFi interest. He just retired from his Texas DPS, Department of Public Safety job after so many years. He's living off his BlockFi interest, and he just got the credit card, so he's going to start swiping all that stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, dude, like this is not going to end well for this guy. And he's like, yeah, I just figured, I start spending some of my Bitcoin before it's too late. That's what he tells me. And then right next to him is his daughter, and then the daughter's husband, and they're all sitting front row and stuff. And I'm just like, man, and so
they got to do their work, man.
Yeah. And so it's just like, those are the people I feel bad for.
Yeah.
Like those are the people that, when I think about, who's it hurting, who's actually not benefiting from all this are those people, the people that are new into Bitcoin, who are going to get their eyeballs ripped off. Those are the people, because they don't know anything about how BlockFi is, a complete scam, how they're making their money behind the scenes, how all of that is structured in a way to where they probably won't ever see that Bitcoin again.
Yeah.
Right. It's completely different than how Unchained does it. That's a company that I have a lot of respect for. A lot of people, there's a lot of shit right now, being talked about them, but they do it a completely different way. I don't give a fuck what JW says, but
yeah, JW, man. Listen, I've actually had the interaction with him on a Clubhouse room where I asked him.
You should bring him on the podcast. That'd be an interesting conversation.
JW? Nah, man, I wouldn't even give him the light of day. Listen, I went on. He was trying to talk me out of Hardware Wallet and trying to set, like, on Clubhouse in front of probably like 500 people, was trying to tell me that I should get rid of my code card and that I should jump on his method of it, whatever, which is, you just buy like a basic Windows laptop from Walmart and all this. And I was like, my man, like, you're not telling me why I should dump my code card. You're just simply telling me to dump the code card. And then a little bit after that, MVK happened to jump into the same room, and they went back and forth in this whole spat back and forth. But yeah, that dude, he's just a fraud, man. I agree with you. I might be a little biased, obviously, because of employment. But even before that, I love the way Unchained was handling business, right? I think it was just one of those things where it's mitigated, where it's like you got to give up some things that I guess the regular maxi doesn't approve of, but the benefit you get in return of being able to, like, multi-sig up and do it correctly and get the help to do it. I think it's a valuable source. It's a valuable service to provide, but people will say I'm biased.
I think there's some of the things that JW says that does provide that is relevant, on other subjects. I just think on this particular subject, I disagree.
Yeah.
But, there's other things that I've heard him talk about there. I'm just like, that's right.
I think he was his beef. Go ahead.
No, he's talked about Ethereum, and he's gone in depth about Ethereum and why, it's not decentralized. And he's like, there's other topics that he's literally talked about where I'm like, he's fucking right. Like,
yeah, but would you say that's a softball though? I think we all know that at this point.
No, but he's actually gone into like the literally like line. I've done a podcast where we played some JW clips and he's like fucking hit him out of the park every single one.
Sweet, guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's things where he's actually like really gone in depth where I'm like, man, this guy's fucking hitting it out of the park. So like, yeah, there's some stuff where I'm just like, yeah, I totally respect him for some of the things that he said in the past. But I think just on this particular topic, I think when he had tweeted that out where I think one of his friends had, lost big or something, I was just like, yeah, I think he's just too close to the wound on that. I think if, like if you had gotten screwed over by so-and-so company, of course I'm going to be like, fuck that company. Fuck them. They screwed over Jose. Fuck, because I'm too close to the source. Right. But, I think if any other person probably wouldn't feel that way,
Right.
Because, they're not friends.
Yeah, no, and if you distance yourself, you could see rationale on both sides and you'll be able to make a better decision than them. I agree. But yeah, that dude just has a bad track record of, it kind of just seems like he picks on the wrong thing for clout. And I haven't seen much of this stuff that you noticed, which is his insightful stuff.
That's what I'm saying. That there's some good stuff there. It's just not all bad stuff.
He's not doing himself any favors.
No, that's why I think there's so many Bitcoin maxis where I think they say one bad thing, and that's another thing in this space. I think people just need to like ease up on. Like Bitcoin maxis can have a bad take. That's okay, and that's okay.
1,000%.
Yeah, I don't see like. Well, obviously you can't commit the cardinal sin of fucking like greed love, right?
Yeah,
you can't do that. You can't definitely do that because you know better. You fucking know better. But but like you can have a bad take on simple stuff like this. I don't think that's a big deal. I think holding somebody over the ringer, for a bad take is just kind of. I think that's childish.
Yeah.
Like I think. Sure. I'm going to have a bad take. I'm pretty sure I've had bad takes before. And I'm going to continue to, to probably take swings and have bad takes, What I'm going to release this weekend will probably be a bad take.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure people will be like, man, Car, you went too far on that Elon episode. I'm going to be like, well, I guess that was a bad take, but still, that's how I felt. I'll take the blowback, whatever, but it was still my opinion. That's how I feel, but whatever.
And we should be allowed to change. That's the thing. We grow, we get new insight, we get new details.
Yeah, I mean, how are you supposed to learn from your peers if you're not willing to go out there and take a swing? And then if you whiff, your peers are supposed to tell you like, hey man, that's a fucking bad take. This is why it's a bad take. And if you're not willing to, take a moment of reflection and say, well, shit, Jose's telling me it's a bad take. Fucking Vlad's telling me it's a bad take. Fucking everybody's telling me it's a bad take. Well, fuck, these guys know me. It's probably a bad take, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to listen to these guys. You know what I mean? And I think the Bitcoin maxis that don't reflect, that don't actually take a step back and realize, hey, these guys are my friends. They're not just like, just saying this just to get clout on Twitter. They're actually looking out for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's important to, do what we did and actually meet, people in person, right? Meet these Bitcoiners in person.
Yeah.
And be able to get a relationship that's away from Twitter. Because that's that old thing that happens, especially in relationships where, listen, your spouse could send you a message. You read that shit the wrong way, and that could fuck up your day. That could fuck up your whole day. So I think Twitter is that times 1,000, where it's like, look, And a car could say something very insightful, and I've read it the wrong fucking way, and I could be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And then it could just spiral out of control on some stupid shit. So meeting people is important, in this space especially.
Yeah, I think so too. I think without meeting somebody, you really don't know like how they talk or how they speak, and so you're reading it out, and you're like, oh, this person's always angry the way he tweets out stuff. But until you know how they talk, you can hear their snarkiness, you know.
Yeah, nah, for sure. I don't even think we told let's talk about Thriller Premium and Thriller Records, right? Those are the two brands you got.
Yeah.
We weren't right into it, man. We're about like an hour in and didn't even talk about it.
Oh, shit.
So let the listeners know about each of those and how they work together.
Yeah, I started a Thriller Podcast Media back in 2017. And that was just to cover everything, you know, everything crypto and stuff like that, just because I just didn't understand anything at that point. And then at a certain point, one of the listeners, you know, was like, "Hey, man, you need a better name for your podcast," you know. And I was like, "I don't have a better name, man." They're like, "You should call it Thriller X." And I was like, "Damn, that's fucking cool, bro." And I was like, Thriller X, that sounds awesome. I was like, "Did you already buy the domain? Is that why you're telling me that?" So I went to go look, and no, the domain was there. I forget who told me. I think it was Michael, one of my listeners. He was, I don't know if it was it was somebody in our Telegram, but he had told me that, and I was like, "Man, that's such a badass name." I was like, "You mind if I use it?" He's like, "Yeah." So yeah, I literally used it, and then we went by Thriller X. And then so when I created the Substack, which was when we did the whole, you know, premium shows, it was a way to like separate ourselves from regular podcasting, because I felt at that point podcasting had just reached a plateau where, you know, that's when Spotify had jumped in. That's when Rogan, I guess, no, Rogan was still doing, no, I think he had just sold out to Spotify at that point. It was all during that time where podcasting had ballooned up, and it was basically become another Netflix where it just commoditized. And I was like, well, the next step is premium podcasting. Like, to me, I saw that clear as day. I was like, premium podcasting is the next step. That was in 2019. I saw that clear as day. So that's when I doubled down. I was like, well, I'm going to go premium, and we're going to create some cool shit. And so we started doing that. But at that point, I was still covering like everything, but it was just more premium. And we started doing a little bit more investigative kind of journalism stuff. And I thought it was very successful. We kind of finally, towards the end of 2020, we started finally like breaking close to even as far as operational costs. And then in 2021, which was this year, I started having that feeling like, hey, you know, I really don't want to cover Ethereum anymore. Like, I don't want to cover anything else but Bitcoin. I was already a Bitcoin maximalist, you know, by August of last year. Like, I was already feeling like, you know, I'm just not into covering, you know, anything Ethereum. But I was doing it because the vast majority of my listeners were into everything. So I felt obligated, you know, to cover everything, right? And so that's where I was like, you know, that's where you kind of feel beholden to do certain things. And I wasn't just happy. I wasn't happy doing it. And I didn't let anybody know, but we just kept doing it. And then it was right around towards the end of December where I was like, okay, you know, I'm going to go ahead and make an LLC now, because after a certain point, you know, I was just like, you know what, we just need to get legaled up, man. Cause if we're going to go Bitcoin, you know, there's definitely going to be some legal stuff that's going to happen. And, you know, I just felt like we were getting big enough to where I was like, okay, we need to just make sure that we're set up everything legal. So that's when we made Thriller X Recordings LLC here in Austin, Texas. I found a really great accountant, and then she takes care of all that stuff. I like to call her, she's like my Sal Goodman. She's like the one that makes shit work.
Love it. Oh yeah.
So if you're somebody who's looking to start an LLC, find yourself a Sal Goodman. I would say interview as many people as you can. Don't feel bad about interviewing them. Just find somebody who's going to be your Sal Goodman, And I mean that like not because you want to do illegal shit, but I mean that because they're good with money, right? So find somebody like that, somebody you can trust, somebody you know right from the get that you're going to have a good relationship with, because those are the people that you're going to have to tell, you know, your dark secrets to. So like you need to find somebody like that. So that's what I did. I found somebody like that. And then, so yeah, I started the LLC, made us legit. And then in January, February, I started saying to myself, like, you know, we just need to move to Bitcoin at this point. And we started releasing less and less content of everything else, because I was like, okay, I'm going to slowly siphon off these guys. I was like, I'm going to slowly stop. I'm going to wean off everybody from the Ethereum stuff and the crypto stuff and slowly start orange pilling the listeners. And they don't know this. First time I'm talking about this publicly. So I'm going to slowly orange pill the listeners into Bitcoin. They're just not going to realize that I'm orange pilling them. And so over the course of January 2021 through June, or through the end of May, I was orange pilling everybody who was listening to the podcast or the premium stuff. And, you know, I think we only lost like 3 people. Like one person had said, "It's like, hey man, I'm sorry, I got to jump out. You just have become too much of a Bitcoin maxi." And I refunded him his money. I was like, "Hey, here's your refund for the full amount," because I just don't want to harbor any bad feelings. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we started doing that, and luckily everybody just stayed on board. And then in June, we went the donation model, because I felt like at that point, you know, if we're gonna do everything Bitcoin, I don't want to be beholden to anybody, even my subscribers. You know, if they're gonna be a part of this, I want them to do it as a donation. And so, yeah, and so that's kind of what we're doing now. And so that's kind of what Thriller Premium is. We're working on a site right now called thrillerbitcoin.com. Don't go to it; it's not up yet. But we're building it. It's going to be thrillerbitcoin.com. And eventually what we plan on doing is moving all our content onto thrillerbitcoin.com. And it's literally going to have all our podcasts, all our articles. It's going to be a way cleaner experience than the Substack platform that we're using right now. So it's just going to be a cleaner look. And if you have your mobile, it's going to look really clean, dude. So people will be able to listen to the podcast from there. They'll be able to read our articles from there. They'll be able to subscribe easier. It's going to be a much cleaner experience than doing it on the Substack or through thrillerpremium.com and through Medium. So you don't have to keep jumping through different websites. Everything will be at thrillerbitcoin.com. And then you can literally just kind of, you know, browse in one site and just kind of, just use it through the web. And that's kind of what we're building. We're hopefully have that rolled out by hopefully the end of August. I'm just taking my time with it because I don't want to rush it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we're building next. It's just thrillerbitcoin.com and trying to make that website as clean as we can. And that's a problem, is that, you know, over time we really, I'm not trying to change our name or anything like that. We're still going to be called Thriller Premium and all that stuff. It's just that I'm trying to create the best content as possible, but I'm also trying to offer a clean experience. I'm always trying to refine the listener experience. I'm always trying to refine everything. And if I can put less and less barriers for the listener, for the person, I'm going to always do that. So like this new website's not going to track you with cookies. It's not going to have any kind of like, you know, any kind of thing where you have to like sign up or anything like that. It's all going to be like, hey, if you want to subscribe, cool. You'll get an email address that'll, you know, you'll get a newsletter that tells you we have a new post. If you don't have to. You just click it and you hit play. But if you want to donate here, you can donate here. That supports us. But if you don't want to, keep using it. And it's just going to be fluid. And there's not going to be any ads. There's no paywalls. It's just clean Bitcoin content at its highest level, or the highest level that I can produce right now. And so hopefully over time, I keep getting better and the content keeps getting better too as well. And we're moving it to a platform that is completely decentralized. It's using Ghost. So Ghost is like this new platform that is decentralized because they use some servers in the Netherlands. So hopefully, if I expect at some point we're going to get attacked or somebody's going to try to hack us, or I'm just expecting it at a certain point. And if they do, they won't be able to do it through thrillerbitcoin.com because that'll be obfuscated away from all of that. But if they wanted to attack us, on Substack, all they have to do is just send a cease and desist to Substack and say, hey, these fuckers, are bothering us. Please pull their, publication. And then Substack pulls me, and then, there goes all our donations and stuff. So yeah. I'm already planning for, us getting pulled at a certain point. And that's why we're moving. Yeah, that's why we're moving to thrillerbitcoin.com at by the end of the year. Because, ultimately our end goal and our goal now is to defend Bitcoin. Like that's our thing now, is we're going to defend Bitcoin and we're going to hold the line. Because what we're seeing now, and this kind of goes back over and over again, what I've been talking about is that we just keep getting attacked from the media. We keep getting attacked by central banks. We keep getting attacked by people from Ethereum. People don't realize this, but fucking Joe Lubin has already, gone through the back door and is working directly with the World Economic Forum at this point. He's working directly with the BIS. He's working directly with the European Central Bank. He's working directly with all these, different type of institutional banks across the world, right? People's Bank of China. Like this is all happening. You can all see it at thrillerpremium.com. You go listen to the Green Swan event conference that we covered. Like this is all there to be looked at. And all these meth heads that don't understand that are fucking retarded. I'm sorry to use that word, but they just are not understanding this. So to think that this guy's playing fair, it's just not possible. It's just not, it's not real. Like these guys in Ethereum aren't playing fair. They're just not playing fair. They're going after something completely different than what Bitcoiners are going after. We're going after, saving humanity. These guys in Ethereum are going after to make sure that we keep the same system that we have now intact, and that they're going to benefit from it,
And they'll be the only ones that benefit from it.
Exactly. And they've already divvied up their Ethereum to whoever they had to make sure that this goes their way. And so this is the way forward that they want to push. And that's why you look at that World Economic Forum crypto council that they've made, and you see Joe Lubin's big old bald head right in the middle of it. That's what I'm saying. And people wonder like, why? Well, if it's decentralized, if it's decentralized, right? Like, it'll just work and blah, blah, blah. No, the reason it's working right now is because they haven't gone after those people. And the reason they haven't gone after those people is because people like the people from Uniswap, that big decentralized protocol.
Yep.
You know how decentralized that is? It's so decentralized that they have the main guy or one of the main guys on the crypto council for the World Economic Forum on that leadership team. Right. That's how decentralized it is. You're telling me that a decentralized protocol is going to need somebody to be on the World Economic Forum, fucking leadership council. That's why the SEC hasn't gone after them. That's why, they're not getting fined.
They're protected.
But you remember, I don't know if you remember this, but Ether Delta got fined right away back in 2018 because they created a DEX back then and they went after them. That was quote unquote decentralized. What's the difference? Oh, it's because lo and behold, this guy's on this crypto council leadership committee, and all of a sudden Uniswap's, you can't touch me. You can't touch Uniswap. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
No one's talking about this. Decrypt's not reporting it. Why isn't Decrypt reporting this? Oh, is it because Joseph Lubin is funding Decrypt personally with his bankroll? That's why. Yeah. Why isn't CoinDesk covering it? Oh, is it because DCG owns CoinDesk and owns most of these assets that are out there?
Yeah.
Right. Cointelegraph. Why aren't they covering that? I can go on and on, bro.
Yeah.
But this industry is bought and paid for. And that's why you need independent journalists like myself to go out there and cover this shit, because they won't cover it. And then guess what? The mainstream media is not going to know this information because they won't cover it. They just don't know this space. So you need people like me around to cover this shit because we're the only ones that are going to be around to tell the truth. And you can't depend on podcasters who are taking money from these people. Like you can't depend on the people that are taking money from BlockFi, that are taking money from, whoever the fuck, because they won't report on this stuff because they can't. And you can't depend on the Ethereum, the Ethereum podcasters, because guess what? They're taking money from these DeFi protocols too as well.
Right.
So you literally need independent Bitcoin podcasters, right? Like, like yourself, like other people to actually report this stuff, because if they're not reporting on it, then how the fuck are we supposed to know when we're being swindled or when we're not being swindled? I don't have no agenda. The only agenda I have is to defend Bitcoin and to hold the fucking line. That's it. If you're attacking Bitcoin, guess what? Car's going to attack back.
We're going to show up.
All. That's the only agenda I have.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why we're going after Elon Musk this weekend.
Well, wait. What happened this weekend? I thought the event already happened. What's happening this weekend? I'm lost.
Oh, so I don't know if you remember, but Elon Musk attacked Bitcoin.
How many times already?
It's been a lot.
Yeah. What's the most recent one? I've been. Let me give you a little context. I've been on family vacation for about a week and a half. I have not been on Twitter. What's going on, man? Hit me.
So in the space, you have so many people, and I respect the fuck out of them, right?
Yep.
I respect a lot of people. People thought I was crazy when I said there was a full attack on Bitcoin earlier this year. People thought I was crazy. I got a couple emails. Oh, Car, you're just exaggerating, man. A couple DMs, Telegram. Oh, Car, there you go again. You're on your kick, bro. Chill out, bro. Get laid, bro. People don't realize that we get.
Somebody told you to get laid.
Yeah, they're just listeners.
Oh, boy.
People don't realize that we get one shot at this, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
For real.
We can't fuck this up, bro.
Yeah.
Like we have immaculate conception with Bitcoin. We have to hold the fucking line. That's how I feel about this.
Yeah.
So if you're creating content around defending Bitcoin, I have tremendous respect for you. Tremendous respect for you. And people know who these people are, right? We don't need to say their names. People know. And if you're sacrificing and you're giving to others and you're leaving profit on the table to do this, and it's unseen, like fucking dude, I have tremendous respect for those people, right? Like all those people, because there's a lot of people like that in the space. A lot of people. Having said all that, the problem with Bitcoiners, having said all that, right? The problem with Bitcoiners is that they are trying to defend and argue against this ESG narrative. Right?
Yep.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. They're trying to argue and defend against an ESG narrative. It's not something that we came up with. It's not something that we said we need to tackle. It's not even something that that was brought up by one of us. That's a problem. That's a serious problem that we're trying to defend and argue against this. And no one's bringing this up right now. Right? But I think it's noble of those Bitcoiners to do this. I think it's very noble of the Bitcoiners out there who are trying to defend and argue against the CSG narrative. I think it's very noble of them. And congratulations, continue the effort. I'm right there with you. Cool. I'm glad that you're doing that. I appreciate the effort. Continue that. But I see things way clearer. This is where like, I'm always going to be left of the center, bro, or right to the center, up to the center, down to the center. I'm always going to be thinking a little bit differently than everybody else, just because that's who I am as a person. That's not Bitcoin's problem. The ESG narrative, that's not a Bitcoin problem. It's never been a Bitcoin problem. the thing that we need to do is we need to attack back. You change the conversation. That's what you do. That's how media really works.
Yep.
There's a I don't know if you've seen that movie. What's that movie called? Tenet? Or no, not Tenet. What's the one that he did before that with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Inception?
Yeah, Inception. Where I think it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's hanging off. He's going to the edge of the garage, and then he's looking at these guys like at the garage, and then Tom Hardy comes next to him and he goes, You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling. And then he pulls out like a bigger bazooka or something like that, just because JGL is like thinking a little small. And that's what I'm telling Bitcoiners. Like, you guys have to think a little bigger, because these people aren't on the same level as us. Like, these are actual media conglomerates, and these are actually media companies. And these people think in increments of 5, right? They don't think in like 1, 2s. They think in reverse. We're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and then checkmate. Right? Like, I'm not even joking. Like, this is how they think. Like, this is how media conglomerates think. Like, first, Elon's going to do this, and then we're going to release this, and then we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to continue this discussion, and then checkmate. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that we're sitting there arguing about this ESG narrative is wasting an entire summer. And I'm just not going to have that conversation. Yeah. Fuck that. What I'm going to do is change the conversation. I'm going to talk about Elon Musk and why he has children mining cobalt for Tesla batteries. Right. That's what I want to talk about. Why the fuck are we not talking about Tesla using children to mine cobalt in the Congolese and the Republic of the Congo? Why is that not a conversation we should be having? Why did that conversation stop in 2019? Why are we having a conversation about that? It's because they want to control the narrative. But people don't realize that that's a bigger problem than Bitcoin. Reason being, all of this ESG stuff, all of the stuff that we keep focusing on when we talk about renewables, when we talk about batteries, when we talk about, creating these windmills, harvesting this energy, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? All that's going to be stored on lithium-ion batteries. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The key element to all that is cobalt. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? All that is stored on 92. I don't have the key thing on me. I have it over here on the other laptop. But all that is stored on I think it's like 92 trillion. Don't quote me on this. You'll hear it on the podcast. 92 trillion tons directly underneath the Republic of the Congo. So the thing that they're not telling you is that the Republic of the Congo could be one of the richest countries, or could be one of the richest regions in the world, but it's not. It's one of the most poverty-stricken areas of the world. You have people living on less than 72 cents per day. You have these big conglomerate like mining companies, evading taxes, not paying their due, all from North America, all from Europeans, right? Why is that? Well, it's because they're mining cobalt with children. And guess who's one of the biggest people doing that? Elon Musk. Right. So what do you do when people are attacking Bitcoin with an ESG narrative? Fuck that. You change the conversation. You say, hey, why is Elon Musk using children to mine cobalt in the Congo? That's what you do. And that's what we're doing this weekend. We're changing the narrative. And then once we release that, guess what happens? All of a sudden, everybody starts writing about it. All of a sudden, people start changing the narrative into Bitcoin's not ESG, Bitcoin is ESG, Bitcoin is blah. No. Why is Elon Musk using children to mine cobalt? That's the narrative that we start switching to. And then it becomes, okay, well, it's not just Elon Musk. Car, you left out all these other companies that are using cobalt. Okay, you have that conversation now. I just started the conversation. You go and have that conversation why Microsoft's using it, why all these other companies are using it. And then it becomes a real thing. Then it becomes a spark. Then it becomes change. And then you can circle back about Bitcoin once you figure out all that stuff, because that's the end game. The end game is us using these renewable batteries. But fuck Bitcoin. Bitcoin has nothing to do with the ESG narrative. The renewable battery is what we're going to be harvesting all this energy, supposedly, right?
Right.
That's the bigger problem. But you have all these fucking conglomerate mining companies making trillions off the backs of these African kids. What?
Yeah.
And you're complaining about Bitcoin? Nah, bro. You attack Bitcoin, we attack back. And that's why Thriller and Premium is important, because you need somebody like us. Decrypt won't do it. Bitcoin Magazine won't do it. Cointelegraph won't do it. CoinDesk won't do it, because they can't. They don't have the balls or the resources.
Right. And they don't want to burn the bridges, quote unquote.
They don't want to burn the bridges, and they're beholden to a lot of companies in the space. You know what? We can't print that. We can't roll with that. But guess what? Car can roll with that. Car can print that, because Car is just some Looney Tune from Austin, Texas. Right.
There's beauty in that, absolutely. And just to keep circling back on podcast over and over, I still think podcast is the last medium that, basically can't be censored, right? Because it's small files compared to video files, meaning that, like, if I were to try to send the same thing as Bitcoin, if I were to try to send even a 1080p video file across the world, the person would have to have that you'll get pulled, or the person would have to have some type of ability, laptop, something to be able to see this. But a podcast is such a small piece of audio that they can hear. They don't even necessarily need the screen. And when you factor in things like podcasting 2.0 and the fact that you don't need platforms like Anchor or Spotify or any of these things or whatever, it's to the point where guys like you said, like you and I, can go on, give our opinions, and it could be more valuable than the big media giants that are basically getting paid. They're in bed with a lot of these politicians who are in bed with a lot of these tech companies. Listen, I don't even get to see the beauty of your content, Car, because this bullshit-ass algorithm for some reason determines that Jose should not see Car posting his podcast. And it's fucking
true.
Bullshit.
No, it's true. So, like, yeah, dude, I'm so, like, hidden on Twitter. It's not even funny. Like,
it's like a shadow ban is what it is. It's
I'm
crazy.
Basically I'm shadow banned on Twitter. I think I'm shadow banned on Substack.
Yeah.
Shadow ban on the Apple podcast. It's hilarious, but it's okay. It to me, it doesn't matter, because once the content's released, it's already done its work. I can move on to the next one. It's like what's that Jay-Z song where he goes on to the next one, you just keep going on to the next one. Once I release this on Monday and it goes nowhere, cool. Doesn't matter, because as soon as somebody else sees it with who has more relevancy than I do, they just made it relevant. So It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I that I have no relevancy, because as soon as somebody who's relevant, retweets it or likes it or quotes it or whatever, it becomes relevant. And that's all it is. That's all it takes these days. It's just one guy who's, who just, on the toilet reading it, whoever it's going to be, and there's some people, believe it or not, there's some people in the space who follow me where I'm like, wow, that guy follows me. He's a CEO of so-and-so exchange. Yeah. That's interesting. Why is he following me for? And I think it's because those people, they see the value in something that I do.
And they know the games that are being played. So it's refreshing to them when they don't see
they want somebody who's going to give a little bit more truth to what's really going on in the industry.
Absolutely.
And I think there's I think there's people that just won't give you the truth, and they just don't want to hear the truth. But I think you need somebody like myself out there to give you that unrelenting truth. And one of the people in my Telegram, he was, when we announced that we were going to go this way, they're like, good luck to you, man. They're going to come after you, blah, blah, blah. But, the way I look at it is like, if it becomes that, if that's where it goes, then that's where it goes. That was my purpose, know? And I think Bitcoin's so important where it's worth a human life. Call me crazy, but I don't think that's crazy. Obviously, it was worth the millions that Satoshi left on the table, right?
Yeah.
If it obviously it was worth like Ross, Ross cared so much about his website and what he was doing for Silk Road because he believed in an open free trade, that he gave his life for that idea. Should he be out of there? Absolutely. Hopefully he gets out one day. But when he did that, like he fell on his sword, man. And to me, that's like the most powerful thing in the world. Like, you can't kill an idea, right? You can't kill an idea. And all you're doing every time they kill or put somebody in a cell, all you're doing is creating 100 more people like that.
Absolutely.
And so when you have somebody like Satoshi, obviously left all those millions of Bitcoin, whatever, somebody like Ross, that inspires somebody else, and if they come after me, they put me in a cell, or they put me in they put me away, whatever they do, you're just going to create another somebody like that. And it's just going to keep, you can't kill an idea, bro. You just can't. You're just going to create more and more of us. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. It's extremely powerful, man. And when we understand the value of, not only
our I honestly think Bitcoin's worth it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, it's the only way out. It's the only way to figure out all this, what I call fiat games, all this stuff that's been subjected to us, all this tyranny that's happening. It's all because of money at the end of the day. Somebody's has, their hands in somebody else's pocket, and they got some type of agreement. Fix the money, fix the world is the thing that comes to mind right now. And I think that's exactly the point here. I think all of this nasty stuff that we've been talking about over the last few hours or so would all get fixed if the money was fixed. And this is our only chance. You said it a little while ago. We only have one shot at this. I couldn't agree more. I think to the point you were making a few minutes ago, I think the smart CEOs also like to keep their ear to the ground, closer to the ground than most people. And, journalists such as yourself, such as myself, people that cover it from the ground, they still like that. A good example is, and this is not to shout him out or anything, it's just interesting. Like you said, why has he followed me? Is Will Reeves from Fold, the CEO of Fold. I didn't post anything that was extravagant for him to be following me, but I kind of see the people he follows. And there are people, like you said, that are not high up on the list. They're people low to the ground that are reporting from the low to the ground. And it's it just shows signs of a smart CEO. Yeah, you don't have your head in the clouds, right? You're actually listening to the Bitcoiners. But we don't got no heroes around here, man. In respects to your time, I think we're reaching that deadline that you gave me. So, Car, we could have this conversation forever. I appreciate your time, brother. Please give the listeners a place where they can go. I know you've been talking about it, but give them a call to action. I'll also include any links in the show notes, but go ahead, man. Send them where you want to go.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if you guys are interested in listening to anything that we got going on, because I honestly think that we're creating some exceptional quality stuff when it comes to Bitcoin. I would say check out the Bitcoin Takeover Radio. That's what me, you, Vlad, and a couple other Bitcoiners are doing. What is the actual website? I just always go to where Vlad is tweeting that out.
Yeah, I usually follow that, but I think it is btck.com. BTCKR. Yeah, I do click on it from Vlad's link.
Here, let me see. Let's
check it out. Yep.
We'll get this right.
We'll get this. Yeah, we don't want to mess up.
Why are you fucking this up?
Vlad's gonna keep ignoring me if I fuck this one up.
Here, let me see. I know I retweeted it somewhere.
Shout out to Vlad, man. Yeah, I know it's one thing to write it, but I appreciate what the little platform that you've built for us to be able to rock with you. So
yeah, if you guys don't follow Vlad, definitely follow Vlad. He's one of those people that I would say he goes by his own fucking trumpet.
Sure does.
Yep. And I respect that, man. I respect people that just don't give a fuck and they just keep doing whatever they want. And me and him would get in disagreements all the time, but I respect that. I rather disagree with somebody all the time.
Yeah, it makes your brain work.
Yeah, that's where you learn. So it is btckvr.com. Check that out. And then he does a 24-hour Bitcoin /radio station. And you can hear all sorts of Bitcoin podcasts. Myself, Jose's on there. Vlad's podcast is on there, and a few others who won't retweet or like our shit. You guys need to fucking retweet that shit. It's pissing me off. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, what was I gonna say? But yeah, anyways, yeah, check out that for sure, because that'll get everybody like fucking going, dude. Like, you know, that'll lift everybody up, because that's like the most important thing. Is we're literally the Bitcoin underground. Like, and I believe that too. And it was funny because that person I was telling you that wanted me on the show, the only reason he wanted me on the show is because we've been pushing this whole Bitcoin underground thing. So he's trying to fucking chase clout, bro. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, guy's a fucking like leech.
Yeah.
He's just a leech, bro. Like, he's just literally chasing clout. And it's so sad too. Like, imagine being that guy where you literally have to like pay attention to everything, and you have to be like constantly like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? And you have to jump on to the next thing. Like, imagine being that guy where you have to like constantly like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? Oh, look at that. And then I have to jump on that. Oh, I have to have him on because I have to. That's fucking exhausting. Imagine having what's that like, dude? Like, I don't wish that on anybody. I kind of feel sorry for him. And it's at a certain point where I'm just like, man, imagine being like, I could never create content like that. Like, literally only having somebody on because you're like, you know, wanting to know like what this Bitcoin underground podcasting network is like, and these group of people that are like Bitcoiners that are creating this Bitcoin podcasting underground are doing, like, just because you wish you were part of that, you know, or you want to get some of that clout on your show so you can be cool and be like that guy who lifts up Bitcoin podcast underground people. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go on. Maybe he'll ask you on. Maybe you'll go on and you'll represent us. But
well, off the line, let me know who it is so I can look out for the message. But I gotta want to speak to the individual. That's my thing, man. If I don't think I'm gonna have a good
that's
conversation.
What I'm saying. Like, everybody their own. I only told Vlad about it, and Vlad's like, no, he's not gonna do it. I wouldn't do it just because, you know, I just won't. Just will not. But you're more level-headed than me or Vlad. So.
No. Once again, if I don't know anything about dude and he reaches out, I'm probably not gonna even.
No, you're more level. You're actually probably better off talking about it than one of us, to be honest with you, because you're more level-headed. I don't want to. You can actually make the conversation better. But anyway,
if I want to talk to him, if I don't want to talk to him,
what I was gonna say was like, anyway, so like that just shows you like we're doing. Anyway, what I was gonna say was ultimately go there because that shows you that we are the Bitcoin underground podcasters. We are doing something special here. We are creating original shit. And that just shows you that all these mainstream Bitcoin podcasts aren't where it's at anymore. Like that was 2017. That was 2018. Even I'll give them 2019 even. But come 2020, come 2021, there's a new breed, and that's us. So check out us.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Even in the call to action, Car is selfless. He just said, hey, screw my direct call to action. We're going to roll together. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Listen, 100%. Everything you got going on inspires me, man. When we met in person, I was so pumped up to meet. I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. Yeah. I do plan on being in Austin more frequently just because of the bit devs and the opportunity that I have.
Are y'all still gonna move or no?
Yeah, that's actually a thing. We've changed the strategy a little bit. I'm not gonna give my whole strategy on live here.
Oh, okay.
But we could talk about it afterwards for sure.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, you know, I do expect to be down there more, and obviously expect to reach out to you every time I'm down there, man. So we could.
You gotta make a podcast, like how you handle that transition. I'm sure that's like, well, you don't have to give the specifics, but like how you handle the the move and like, I would listen and be like, how do you make a cross country move like that? Because I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about something like that.
I might be able to, yeah, man. I think it would
make for a good episode, even if it's just you and your wife like talking about it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. We made an episode when we put in our 2-week notice. Yeah, so we got a few. So yeah, it might be a good follow-up.
As hell too, bro.
Yeah, man. Things are going good, man. We're excited to do this. But the Texas thing is definitely going to happen now. But anyways, we'll get off the mic and talk about that. Car, thanks again, man. I appreciate you. I'm going to put all the descriptions for, the links in the descriptions for everybody listening. Guys, go check it out. If you want pure Bitcoin journalism, or like Car said, if you want to go see the Bitcoin Underground podcast, I got to start using that term more often because I agree with you. But there's a lot of good content going on out there. Car, thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate you.
We're the Underground, Jose.
I love it, brother.
All right.
Later. That wraps up another great conversation. I could talk to Car for days. I literally do. We send messages back and forth to each other. And one of the better relationships that I've been able to gain over the last year. And I appreciate all of his knowledge. Guys, if you want more of this information, please check the show descriptions where you can find areas to be able to support the show. That's how I continue to have the conversations I love to have. And you can continue to get the conversations you love to listen to. As always, till next time, guys, take care.